session today. All right. So usually, what are the important points or what are the important things to note when you go for a training session, webinar? Can somebody tell me?
Silent your phone.
Silent.
Don't
Put
bring
your-
laptop.
Rules for a good meeting session, all right? Because if not, it will not be productive, especially if it is very important subject matter, then you need your focus. So silent corner,
You know what it's called.
no laptops. Anything else? Be on time, be punctual.
Feedback.
Yes, feedback. And most importantly, it has to be a two-way session.
Good food.
Good food. Yeah. That's important, actually. I think that we need the strength, right? After spending so much of our energy, then we need to refill our energy. Okay, so I will talk about the session plan for today, right? So as you can see, what can you do after this session, right? So there's some learning outcomes. We'll discuss that a little bit more in a bit, but in summary, you want to understand how to set KPIs, what is the importance of the KPI. You also want to make sure that we set KPIs which is enhancing the company goals, and you will also get some insights on how to monitor your KPI. Many times we set KPIs, but sometimes the monitoring is, maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit. So the agenda, we'll have an ice-breaking session, which will be fun, right? And we will talk about the expansion of KPI, and I will talk to you about how we make sure that the KPI is expanded. So that will be from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Back to sessions. Explanation of the KPI will be from 10 to 10:30. We'll have some group discussions that will be followed by the different type of indicators that we're going to talk about. And module 3 will be the 7-step approach, which will help you. There are many approaches to how you want to set KPIs, but the one I'm using is a simple tool. It's a 7-step tool where you can understand and you'll be able to set better KPIs. Okay. 12:30 is a lunch break. And we will wrap up the session. After the lunch break, you will do a small presentation, right? Just to make sure that you understood what all this thing is about. And then we will have some feedback session and any questions. So that will be the session plan. Right, so I'll just give a quick introduction. I'm sure that most of you know about me, but allow me to just explain what my experience has been, right? So right now, the general manager for the Shana plant and also the category lead for the surgical and life science portfolio. Okay, I've actually been working for 36 years when I set this up, right? It surprises me when I say that I've been working for 36 years because I still remember the first day I went to work. I even remember the dress I was wearing when I went to work. So, today I'm still here and I'm proud to say that I've worked in many different divisions. I started as a compounding chemist, was stuck there for about 8 years and I became the technical manager. And these two roles were roles where I was mostly like an individual contributor. So very few people, I didn't interact very well, or interaction with people were very less. But when I became the manufacturing manager, then the interaction became very much higher. So it was a very contrasting difference, I mean, in the role, right? So from individual contributor, not knowing how to work with people, I became somebody who's able to manage people, work with people, and that's how I gain all my knowledge. So um, I did complete the Triple T certification from HRD Nation. So what's our agenda today? So we'll start off with an ice-breaking session. I know all of you may know each other, but let's see how well you know each other, right? So we'll have a fun session. We'll talk about the learning outcome, which I mentioned earlier. We want to make sure that we know exactly what are we going to learn in today's session. We will learn how to define KPIs. We'll learn why the KPIs are important for the plant. And then we'll also discuss about KPIs for the plant itself, right? Because there are many KPIs, can be KPIs for your personal life, but today we're going to focus on KPIs for your plant. How to set the right KPI, we'll have a group workshop, and after that, we'll have a wrap up and feedback session. I'll talk about the learning outcome one more round. Firstly, when the session ends, what will you learn?
What's the target?
Yeah.
How to achieve it?
Yeah.
What?
That's one thing. But another aspect of it is we will also learn why KPI is very important. We talk about KPI a lot. Many people put this KPI, that KPI, so many things are being done, but today we will learn why it's really important. Already you may know, but we will also learn a little bit more from each other. And one thing that I find sometimes is lacking among us, including myself, is that the monitoring and the following up, right? We are a little bit poor in terms of following up. We are a little bit poor in terms of making sure that we are reaching the target, right? So how do we make sure that we monitor properly, how we set the right KPI, how we are going to achieve the targets, okay? And most importantly, you can set any KPI, but if I set a KPI and I say that I want to be a wealthy person, it's not going to help the company, right? Okay, so you want to set a KPI which will have influence on improving the plant performances, improving the shareholder prices, and overall our success. Okay, so let's start with a fun game. I'm not sure if you've heard of this two truths and a lie. Have you all heard about this game before? Yeah, I'll give you all some time to think about it, and I will give an example of myself. All right. So I need you all to afterwards write 3 statements about yourself. Can be short, can be long. One of it must be a lie, and you all need to guess which one is the lie. Right. So if you look at me, right, my first statement is what? I have been to the Great Wall of China. I've visited Great Wall of China all by myself. Okay. Second thing, ice cream flavors. Right? I love chocolate. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I love chocolate. I love chocolate ice cream as well. Okay. Lastly, this is an interesting one. I actually accompanied one of my best friends to the graveyard at 12 midnight. Understand the 3 statements? Which one do you think is a lie?
Third one. Number one. Number one.
Which one? First one. Media? This one. That okay. Sorry to say all of you got it wrong. It's number 2.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what? I actually love chocolates, but I hate chocolate flavored ice creams. I never take chocolate flavor. Every time, when we have ice cream day and all that, I always go for the non-chocolate. If it's a chocolate flavor, I don't touch it. Very rare, right? So number 3 story, I will tell you all another time, maybe during the break. So now, what I want you to do is, 2 minutes, right? The A4 papers provided to you. Write 3 statements about yourself. Okay. One of it must be a lie, and see if you can. It would be nice to know about you though. Be nice to know something about you. Take your time. You have a few more minutes. Easy to describe a truth, right? But hard to describe a lie, right? Are you ready? And very good. Good. One more. Idiot. I'll let you read it out.
Right.
Right.
And let me see.
Almost.
Okay, now let's do the box.
How many more? Idiot. See, sometimes people are afraid to diverse things, right? Sometimes.
Kami belum setingkat kan. KPI pun tak susah macam ni.
Yeah, 30 more seconds. Maybe.
Done.
Done.
Ah,
Oh, fantastic. Okay, who finished first?
Seven.
so I'm ready now.
Yes. Please come up here and read out and let's find out the
First statement. I love playing Transformers figures. Second statement. I have worked as a cleaner and a guard in a Shalam circuit for my survival during student. Number 3, I love sweet foods on daily basis.
Third one.
Yeah.
Third one. Bitter.
Correct.
There you go. Correct.
Okay, first one is I like exercise for gym, swimming. Okay, then one. I like gathering, hang out with friends rather than having my me time. Okay, third one. Watching, reading comics or watching anime is one of my favorites.
Number one.
Number two. It's two, I don't know. Let's see.
Which one? I mean, which one is nine, right?
Yes.
Actually, number.
Oh, yeah.
I do like exercise, but I don't
He didn't say he will do it. He said he loves it.
He loves it, yeah.
Right, okay. Trigger go.
So, first statement, I love outdoor activities, especially related to art. I get nervous when traveling by airplane.
Get
Nervous
nervous.
when traveling by airplane. Okay. Motorsport is one of my favorite interests. One, two, or
Two.
Two. That should be three.
Three.
Then should be three.
number one is I speak it.
Yeah.
But you do hiking.
So it's not like you see sometimes, right? People are not interested. So you understand him today, something about him.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Because hiking, the hiking will stand on things. I tak boleh kalau nearer tepi then you have a vision.
Yeah.
Understand. Thank you so much. Deepa.
India safari with my family. I love cooking Indian food. I'm very interested in knowing about cars.
So first one was Kenya with the family. Second one, Indian. I love cooking Indian food. That one is I love cars or
Interested in knowing about
First one.
First one.
First one. First one betul.
First one.
First one betul. Kalau tu betul, dia suka masak.
Dia tak cara Indian nama salah.
Dia suka masak.
Dia kena masak, dia tak suka masak.
Dia suka masak.
Dia kena masak, dia tak suka masak.
Oh.
You're not interested in cars, right?
Oh.
not interested in knowing about
By music.
I'm like you as well. I only know how to just drive the car. I don't know anything else about the car. All right, who is left? Vidya. No. Frank, do you have anything? Do you have anything? Right. Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
this time. I have been working in government sector in 5 years. Second, I love martial art. Third one, I love cooking.
Number two.
One,
Two martial arts.
One for one.
go for one.
I don't-
Two. Number three, actually, I matcha.
Oh. And matcha coffee is your family.
Picking your.
Kan because this memang I working of now before this last year, so I start learning. And then I learn about it.
Oh.
Pantat lah semua kalau macam dekat tu.
Any of you give problem ship? Satya?
Yeah. I am a short-tempered person, not easy to get along. That's the first one. Second, I love riding motorcycle and riding in car. Thirdly, I totally hate playing ping pong. First one. Yeah. That's the first one.
Don't answer too quickly, let everybody answer. Siva.
Okay. Especially sour food. Especially sour food. That's one. Secondly, my family and I are from Klang, origin from Klang. Then I have not received my compensation letter.
She's not received a compensation letter.
Yeah.
Besar.
Yeah, correct.
Number one.
I love to eat, but not sour one. Especially sour one, I hate.
All right. Oh,
Share, 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 share.
Yeah.
Okay, the first one is I've been traveled to China by myself, all alone.
True.
Second one is I love pets. Third one is I hate coffee.
Third one.
Number two.
Number three, yeah. Third one.
Correct?
Yeah.
So, that's
Eh, no,
interesting.
number two lah.
Number two.
Huh? You put
I like pets, I don't like pets.
Like options.
You don't like coffee, is it?
I only take actually Nescafe.
That was a bit funny, right? She wasn't sure which one was her. All right, okay. So that actually teaches us that there are always something that we do not know about another person, because the most complex thing in this world is the human mind. Human mind is the most complicated, most complex thing, right? What goes on in your head, you don't share 100% of it, you only share some part. Always the things that you keep to yourself, right? Okay, so we have 3 modules. I'm going to start with the first one. So, question is, what is KPI? Key performance indicator,
Success criteria.
success criteria, targets to achieve. Right, let's see what definitions we are here, right? So you have, all of you have mentioned the critical terms, but this is a little bit more expanded, right? So we are talking about measurable, okay? So remember that the word measurable is very important when it comes to KPI. If you set a KPI, but it cannot be measured, for example, if I say that I want to be rich, right? That's not a KPI. But if I say that I want to earn $1 million by December, that's a KPI. Because I know what's the amount that I want. I know when I want to achieve the goal. What I don't have is how I'm going to achieve, right? So that's the part that's what KPI is. Second one, it actually is a tool which will help you to monitor your progress. So I want that $1 million, right? So I'll go by lottery ticket every month. Some of you who know me will know that I buy lottery tickets because somebody told me this once before that, You want something, but you're not doing anything about it, nothing is going to fall into your lap, right? So I know that 3 ways to get rich. Either I have to be born rich, I'm talking about wealthy rich, right? Or I have to marry someone who's really rich. That both didn't work out for me. The third way is buy lottery.
This one.
Right? So KPIs actually will give an insight of how well we are doing, right? So I target, that means that am I buying the lottery? I'm just taking a very simple example. Do I buy the lottery every month? Or do I not buy for 3 months, but on the fourth month again buying the lottery? So my chances become lesser and lesser of getting that $1 million. You know what I mean, right? So in order to make sure that I have all the means to get that $1 million, maybe I will not just depend on lotteries alone, right? I'll see if I can open up a business which can make money. So there are various ways of achieving your targets, right? So you can set that when you have the goal, but you have to work towards how we are going to achieve the goal. Maybe to achieve the target, I have a few methods, right? Now, very important question, right? Why is this KPI so important? Why does it matter? Right, so I just probably divide you into 2 groups, turn around, have a quick discussion with your team, and then turn back and give me some examples or give me some idea as to why you think KPIs are important. Just a quick discussion. Okay.
Rather partition.
So that they not one away.
Eating
The sustainability of the company. If you control the energy.
if I
It's that once you've done the discussion, you can look back to this come and write.
in so in meeting class.
Is the TTT.
Is it meeting answer?
What that? Or we are not really sure. People. It's every day. It's confined. It's like I tak betul pro. Semua bonus. People.
No bonus.
No. No. Coffee.
Yeah.
Kita tak ada lah. Sudah saya share kan. Kan kopi habis.
Kita tambah itu gimana?
Who's the right names? Anything that is not there. But no right or wrong answers, because every answer is meant. Read out what we have written.
First one is alignments. That we can actually towards achieving the same goal.
Yeah, it's a very good point, right? Because if you don't have a common goal, everybody will be working for different goals, right? So that is important. And alignment, right? We need to agree. I can't just set a goal and some of you don't agree, or you can't set a goal and the other person doesn't agree, right?
Number two is KPI can set as indicator for individual or fundamental. Number three is once we have the KPI, it enables sharing and also do a health check on company. Okay, number four is when we do these KPI sections, right, it allows us to identify the improvement area. Okay, number five is good reward as in have a target to achieve, once achieved, others.
Anybody don't understand what they presented or saying?
Here you share the same in the
Understand.
we are not repeating.
Understand.
Because when they have the getting a more and to achieve then seven is a that it is shareholder.
Thank you so much. So you see a lot of words there, they're talking about the sustainability of a company. I think we ourselves know that, right? Sometimes when companies are not doing so well, for a couple of years, if their targets are not achieved, it is not really sustainable, they close down a lot of companies. And then you will have shareholder price, very important as well, because obviously at the end of the day, the shareholder price, the shareholders need to be happy, right? So usually that's the ultimate aim, and because all these companies are based on shareholders, right? So the company is not doing well. Like for example, if you I invested in Top Glove, all right, a few years ago. So someone told me that it's going to make money during the COVID, but unfortunately, right after that, Top Glove got into a very critical situation, right? And the share prices actually dropped. So these things can happen, and the company will suffer, struggle a lot. So, thanks. Monitoring and health check on company and individual is also another key important point. The health check. How healthy are you? Are you on way to meeting the targets? Because you set the targets, and then are you on the way to meeting the targets? How relevant is the target for you? Right. So that is why is it very relevant to whatever that you're doing. Same example that I gave you that I can't just say that I want to be rich, but I need to have a proper target. Right. And achieving the same goal, the alignment, I spoke about it a little bit. So important, right, for us to be aligned in terms of goals. So goal setting, KPIs, why it matters is because at the end of the day, it is a win-win situation for everybody, right? Because if you really look at it, shareholder prices go up, the managers or whatever, they get a good STI, bonuses, the employees are happy because they have a stable job, security, can take care of their family, go on vacations, holidays, buy whatever that they want. And these are all like personal benefits to you, right? So what's the benefit to the company is that when we have a team of people with an aligned goal, and it is monitored correctly and properly, and we are setting KPI which can actually bring profit to the company, it's beneficial. So you can see some of it. I think you've covered this. That means that you're keeping the team, making sure the team is moving in the right direction, not one person go and do something else, another person go and do something else. Like for example, in EHS, one of the KPIs, to get as many these near misses, right? And, if you guys are not having the same mindset, then it will be just one person doing the job. And it doesn't become a direction for the people. So why we are finding for near misses is because we actually want to prevent accidents, actual accidents from happening, right? So people need to understand the purpose of why the KPI is there, so that they can work towards it and they will be together with it, right? Why is it important to make sure that shipments are going out in time? Because we want to make sure that the products reach the customers, right? So is it just logistic department's target? No, everybody needs to be aligned with the target and say that, okay, all the shipments need to run. What do I need to do in order to make sure the shipment is moving out, right? I need to make sure I pack the glove, I produce products or whatever that we are doing. As for QA, we will say that, okay, how can I, use my function, make sure that things are moving in the correct flow, right? So there are a lot of things that will give you a same direction. Okay. The second one, the health check. I think somebody mentioned it just now, so it's very important. The organization wants to see how healthy you are, right? So let's say you, I will relate it to, like a health issue. Like for example, I worry that I will get diabetes, right? Because my mother has diabetes, so sometimes it's genetic, right? So I want to be very careful about making sure that I don't have diabetes. Can I just continue every day and say that I don't have diabetes? I need to check my health to make sure that I'm not having diabetes, right? So I need to check my health. I can't just simply say that, I don't want to be diabetic. That's not going to work out. So many things that is involved when someone says that if I don't want to be diabetic, then I got to measure my health, make sure that I'm healthy and not in the glucose level or right. The third one is making necessary improvements. As somebody has touched on that, identify improvement areas. Absolutely. Sometimes you set the KPI, we may not have the same KPI after 5 to 6 months because you realize that, oh, oops, I don't think this is the right one because it's not giving me any help. So I need to move on to another KPI, which I need to improve the system first. Probably an example will be that we're trying to set targets for electricity, usages and all that, right? So yes, we can just jump into it and just start doing, right? But while you're doing that exercise, there are a few things that can happen. One is that you can see whether you have actually got a baseline, which Sol is always talking about. So if you don't have a baseline, what are you going to do? So to have the baseline, you have a monitoring system. And while doing that, you may realize there are a lot of faulty equipment, which is actually causing the problem. So you see, there's so many things that you can actually achieve if you really give importance to your KPI, how you're going to monitor it. So it's beneficial in many ways. Last but not the least, right? So you want to make sure that everybody in your team is able to contribute, right? Setting goals. I'm doing this, or the person in charge is giving you all the KPIs, but you want to make sure that you cascade it down to your, right? They may not be having the exact same KPI, right? But you can always find things that is relatable to even to the operator level, right? So from any functions, right? Any department, any functions, try to, it will be very beneficial if you can set some simple targets. You don't go, can you go and tell them that you have to improve the plant performance, what would the people at a different level do, right? It doesn't mean anything to them. The question is, yeah, boss, I want to do it, but how? What do I need to do? So you need to break down the targets and make sure that cascaded, right? So thank you. That's such really important. Any points that's missing? Anything else that you all want to add? All right. So we're going to module 2 now. We talked about why KPIs are important. Now we want to know what KPIs are important. What KPIs that we should be monitoring in order to make sure that we achieve whatever the benefits that the KPIs are. Okay, so here, usually we use a lot of indicators, right? We have indicators to show or to monitor, and then we can actually do some get some examples. All right. So I'll just give you one example. So are you all familiar with the indicators that's mentioned there? Leading indicator is very common, right? So what does leading indicator mean?
Something that show before this can happen or prevention.
Right. So if you take my diabetes as an example, what would be the leading indicator? Health screening that I'm doing, and then maybe I also make sure that There are no symptoms. Yeah, there are so many symptoms that's related to that, right? So I can look at those. In that sense, what would be the lagging indicator?
Diet take medicine.
Literally, it's a test that I do and I realize that I actually have diabetes. Right?
Yes.
Or my numbers are very high. So do I want to wait until I do the test, get the result? Because my aim is to make sure I don't get diabetes. So my indicators should be, am I taking too much of sweet food? How is my diet? So those are leading indicators. Lagging indicators is when I walk into the clinic, or I faint, or I have some problems, or my tummy ache, whatever, right? And I have a wound, it doesn't heal, and I go to the clinic, and then they tell me that you're dead. Okay, I mean, I actually have it, so I need to start monitoring and see how. So that is the difference between leading and lagging. Okay. Input indicators. Anybody know what is input indicator? Tell them. I don't know, Eric, want to give a try? Description is there, you can use that.
Food probably something like that. Want to coming releases, supply is that.
Okay. There's a measurement, right? Like of the amount of resources that is required, or in order to reach that. That's the input indicator. So, for example, let me see if this makes sense. Let's say we have packing material, right? But you're measuring the packing material, but if you want to know whether your packing material is sufficient, how do you do that? How do you make sure that your packing material is sufficient for the production?
The consumption is
Right? So that's one way of monitoring as well, right? So supply chain department can look at an overall picture, see what is the NRP, what are the future volumes or demand that is there, and then they can go back and adjust the. So those are some indicators that she can use, right? She can look at the future or whatever the plan is coming, can go back and say that, okay, I have enough materials, right? Process indicators. Derek should be able to answer. What are some process indicators?
Your ideas. I see.
Obviously, there are no wrong answers. Here's some examples of it. The process indicator actually wants to tell you whether whatever the flow that you have is it efficient. So you can measure the efficiency. So OEE might be OE, right? Because you want to make sure that your downtime is low, whether your machines are running, full and that sort of thing. So in a dipping operation, if you go to the other plants, right, the sister plants, you'll see that they have a lot of process indicators, right? So example, the temperature. I think sealing will make sense. You need a certain temperature for the sealing bed. So are you measuring the sealing temperature? If it's in a dipping, you want to see that the temperature of the latex is correct, because the latex is actually chilled, right? So you want to make sure that the latex is maintained below 21 degrees Celsius, right? So then how do you know that? It's because you have temperature or thermometer, whatever, right? To measure the temperature, or digital, nowadays it's digital. So you can see whether it is maintained. So those are indicators in the process, right? And output indicators is what you mentioned, FP1, right? So you have all your products and whatever not, and then the output is there. So this is the result of the process or the activities that is taking place already, and then you take your output and then you probably measure. I think you do final release criteria. So that is. So that is actually a lagging indicator already. Yeah? So we have different buckets, but some of these can also be lagging or leading indicators, right? And another one is that the directional indicator. So this one is an overall health check. So how do we do the overall health check? One can answer that. Overall directional indicator. whether the company is doing well. How do you know whether the company is doing well?
So cash flow was strong.
Mhm.
And fund performance.
Absolutely on point, right? So that is why we have meetings, right? I mean, we have the once the plant performance is completed, why do we look at all the indicators that is, we're trying to make sense to see whether we are in the right direction. So those are directional, right? So to give you a little bit of exercise, I'll provide you some examples as well. So you have the post-down notes at your table. So what you can do is for each of the indicator, just provide one example, right, on the post-it. So examples, first one is on predicting the outcome of a process, right? So how would we predict the outcome of the process? That means that you probably look at, for example, your outcome desired is you want to meet the productivity, right? That is the packing productivity. So what do you need to actually measure? You need to measure the gloves produced and output. So man hours, pairs per man hours. So that could be an example.
Can be an example, be different bag.
Yes, just try best one example for each of the indicators. Yeah. So you post it on notes. Just put it. Discuss among yourself if needed. If you are still not clear, please feel free to turn around and talk to your partners. We actually discussed all of it already. A lot of you gave some good examples. You can use the same. You can use yours. Yeah, please go ahead and discuss.
We talk about indicators and things. Leading with people, preventive measurements. In process. Itu proses kan.
Input indicator is the amount of resources so it's related to your utilities. You measure whether you're using the right amount of electricity or right amount of water. So those are input, right? Inputs for your process. You can relate it to your departments as well.
And our evidence.
So for example, if it is warehouse, right, like the number of people it takes to load the container, do you measure that? Do you actually see whether the loading hours are, is as per what they say? Do they need like 3 operators to do the loading? So those are examples that
Process indicators. Dia pada input indicators apa? Utility, income,
HR, if you look at HR, right, process indicators, what would be like, how do you relate it back to the company or the company goals? What is needed? I mean, like, what are you measuring right now in terms of making sure that, you know, the set number of incomes are there, maybe the training that you need, maybe the person, the skills that you need to give the person, right? So if this person is doing the packing operation, is the person skilled to do the packing operation? Is it related to the number of trainings that you need to do, or the person need to go to a certain job, on the job training before you say that he or she is capable of doing the job? So that's one way to look at it. Output indicators are always the end results. Like, for example, I try to give one example from this year's, like, if I take warehouse, right? You want to look at whether they have stacked all the boxes, right? And it's correctly stacked, there's no mistakes, whatever that you pulled out. So that will be your measurement. So probably at the end of sun, I think you take pictures as well to make sure that it is stacked. Yes. So that is your output. Yeah. It will become part of the output. Right. And for production will be the rejects and so on. For finance, I think you've already mentioned. IT.
I was thinking like the blackout, how the user will be connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think like how you do it.
Supply chain, probably resources. If you look at your vendors, whether all the vendors that you're getting, you know, how is their supply, you know, that will probably. Don't worry too much about the buckets, right? Think of whatever that you can, and we can later put it into the right. What indicators do you have? Or what indicators do you think we should have, right, in order to reach the organization?
So it's actually a version lah. It's not like we have
It's okay. It's okay. Maybe don't worry about the buckets for now. We can do that later. But let's talk about the indicators. That is the most important. Indicators, yeah. Oh, they got to do it. Shoelaces are not be careful.
Oh.
Inventory levels. It doesn't matter. This, yeah, little bit.
Yes, yeah. So, that was yes, yeah. They say just again like big size because more isolation.
It's important for us to know the indicators. So I want you to spend with your friend. Don't worry about it. We have sufficient time. Maybe the best way to do this is probably write the indicators first, then you can put it into the different. And then we can figure it out together, whether it's a lagging or a process or whatever.
We can say that like only anything that we monitor is the
Yes.
which categories.
Correct. Customer satisfaction, number of number of actions closed, remember? Those are the things, probably safety. Right? Yes, that's a lagging indicator, but it's a
But your internal audit will be seeing that.
correct. Correct. So there's different things that you need to see which bucket, we can discuss again. It's on my screen.
Ya, kalau macam aku, we completed that. Meaning, we are not done live. And it's like, again, because kita punya output, directional ada zero NC. Directional is zero NC, tapi bila kita ada NC, sebagai indicator.
NC is working, but just in case you do internal audit, internal audit will be.
All that it is. Let's see. Not an example, but just to give you an idea, then we will see whether it makes sense there. So if you look at the first one, right, leading indicators talks about usage of safety equipment, quality control requirements, average hours work. It doesn't necessarily have to be such just examples. So let's see what we have there. UAUC, that is the monitoring of the incidents, right? And preventive maintenance. Is it leading or lagging? Or is it process input? What do you think? Let's go through this one more. All right. So if you talk about lagging, it can be the number of accidents that has already happened, right? So imagine it is something that has already happened, right? The customer satisfaction already happened because you already sent the products, everything out. Now we are asking, are you satisfied with the product, right? So that is the lagging. That is the leading indicator, because if they come back and say that they are not happy or they need to make some changes, then we probably can do it. I'm not entirely sure that whether customer satisfaction depend on the different scenarios, because that is a survey that we can do actually, rather than wait for the customers to come back and feedback, which is why we do the voice of customer samples, right? We give it to them, we find out, so that is a leading indicator. So every time when we change the process, we will actually produce the products, we'll have some samples, and we send it to the customer. In-house also, we have people who are checking. For example, QA, PPM, they all do the checking, right? To just make sure that we are happy with it first, and then we send it to the customer, see that they are happy. If there are any feedback, we also go back and make the changes, right? If you look at the, so in this times they have put it as a lagging indicator, because mostly talking about probably whether the customer is satisfied with the product. So that becomes the lagging, because you've already sent out all the products, which is why it's lagging. So it can be leading or lagging, depending on which context you're talking about. Input indicators, we spoke about it. It's like measuring We're measuring stuff, like the amount of water that you use for the spa project, the amount of water that, the electricity that you're using. Is somebody drying the gloves or drying the product too much? Like maybe you only need to dry it for 15 minutes, but maybe you are drying it for 25 minutes. Or we are drying it for 25 minutes, but the glove is still not right. So you have indicators to show you exactly how long you need to dry the product, what is the temperature, everything is there, right? So it will share with you, it will show you that, let's say the temperature falls off. You have the indicator which shows that it's falling off, right? So those are input indicators. Process indicators is actually the efficiency. Here they have stated the amount of time taken to build a product, which is exactly what you guys are doing. Productivity, right? Output indicators is the quality of the product that is after, right? That means that FRC is probably STP, I think you mentioned STP and FPR, which is an outcome of it, right? Because that's something that you are measuring after everything has been done. So it is an output indicator. Directional, I think what my point mentioned just now, really on spot. It's about the cash flow. It's about whether are meeting the financial performances. Is the company on the right direction? Yeah. Here you can also see number of customers. I guess that what it actually means is that are we selling the products? There's no point of producing all the products but we don't have customers who are buying it. So today I can increase my customer from 10 to 20. That's a good indicator, right? So for the sales team, probably this is one indicator for them, whether they have sold 20 million pieces, 20,000 customers. I'm sure they have those kind of indicators, sales area. So, Derek, if you want to just take us through what you have put, what your team has put, since it was a good discussion.
So leading indicators are the way you see safe act and safe condition. Preventive maintenance, okay, and also in process rejection rate. Lagging indicators is output rejection, customer complaint. Good indicators like training, utility usage, peak power damping, and also employee attendance. Okay. Process indicators, OEE, productivity monitoring. The output is STP, SPY, and directional indicators like share price, net flow, and budget expenses.
Do you think that any of it should be changed into a different method? Does it make sense? Right, just presented. Yeah, any concern? You think something is not in the right place? Okay, Siva, you want to present? Yeah.
For the leading indicators here, we put maintenance. And lagging one is the funny time and for inputs is the tree and top on the end, so it's not. Since we have the year planning and state. Output same things like then directions in the plant performance as estimate versus the.
So anything not covered? Or anything in the wrong bucket? Any questions? Is it clear what when we say indicators? I do understand that there's a lot of terminologies there, but basically what you need to most understand is what is your indicator. Perhaps what you can do later in the exercise is when you're putting your indicators, you can try to figure out whether it's a lagging or it's a leading input or output. You can think about it a little bit more, right? So there are many indicators. That's the most important thing. Okay, and usually we will talk more about leading and lagging indicators. So why leading indicators are important is because it will predict the issue before it happens, right? For lagging indicators, it's when somebody comes and tells you that you have not met this, you're not met, why this was not delivered, why this thing happened, all those things. Then it's too late already because you do not have a system to see whether you've actually delivered what you promised. Okay, very clear. Leading and lagging, most important. Any questions? None. Yeah. Okay, because afterwards you all will be doing the exercise. Got to make sure that it's clear, but yeah. So I'm going to show a few of the manufacturing indicators, right? So you get somebody's help to Zoe, can you just take us through some of the KPIs? Yeah, it's a top 50.
One increase in overall effectiveness OEE.
OEE, is it something that we measured here?
Yes.
Increase in labor efficiency.
So labor efficiency, how do we, what is it that we are using?
As long as our level of
Labor productivity.
Increase in output.
You monitor your output. Right? You do monitor your output. You want to make sure that, and I think every department will have their output. So it's just not about production alone, right? Your output will be probably is a vendor providing you with sufficient gloves. I think we also have problematic vendors and all that, right? So that's how you measure.
Increase in costs.
Okay. Some white one will love it because she wants everything, all the costs to be decreased, right, white one? So what are the ways that you can decrease costs? It's an indicator, but what are the few things that we can do in order to improve costs? We're doing it day in, day out. What's your spending? One thing? Increase efficiency. Right. Increase efficiency is a bit more general term, but increase efficiency means there are few things that need to work in order for the efficiency to be improved. What are the things that is involved in improving the efficiency? Reduce waste. Include the rejection. Different words, same meaning. Okay. What are the ways to improve efficiency? Can be anything. Invest in automation. Very good. Innovation. Right? Lean process. Make sure your flow is okay, not too many diversions or improve downtime. Right? So improve efficiency is really good, but there's a lot of factors that go, a lot of other indicators that go into this. Right? What's the fourth one? Increase in quality. I would say that improvement in quality, right? We want to make sure that we give quality products to them. Next one. Resiliency. All right. So what does that mean? Resiliency means what? Anybody know what's the meaning of resiliency? You can relate, but good try, yeah. I'm going a little bit more on liability part of it. Resiliency actually means that for a simple, let me take an example, right? When you take a rubber band, when you stretch the rubber band, right? When you stretch the rubber, you're stretching it to the maximum possible level. So if I stretch it too much, it will break. But I will continue to stretch as much as I can. And if I let it go, if it remains like that, not really very good, right? You want the rubber band to be able to go back into its original mode, right? So you are testing the strength of the rubber band or the elasticity. Okay, it's how quickly the rubber band can go back into its original position without breaking. That is resiliency. FAB. So it means that we will get hammered. We will get hammered from many grounds. We may fall off the grid. But the point of it is that how quickly we are able to get back up on our. That is really the actual meaning of resilience. It is how strong. Sorry. Sorry. The example, it's really a good example, right? Because what are we doing, when we talk about back orders? We always have a recovery plan, okay? And recovery plan is really important. We can't just say that, okay, you're going to have a back order, la, 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 okay, fine, everything. No, it doesn't work like that, right? We have a back order, we want to see what are the things that we are going to do in order to input the back order, all right? I pick up an example from one of our sister plants, right? Like, I think you may have heard about it. So you know that in one of the plants, right, we have a lot of backorder, especially some systems were implemented, equals quality improvements were, done, tightened, and they lost the productivity for a couple of months. Okay, and that has created a really big hole, right, in the recovery. Okay, as far as possible, we do not want to have any back orders. There will be some bit of back orders because maybe not within our control, right? I think shipment is not within our control. We can't go and, I don't have somebody who. Yeah, I used to have a supply chain manager who always come and tell me, Preeta, I wish the captain was my husband. That's what she always used to tell me. Please don't come and tell me that. Right? But to be to be realistic, right? So within our control, what is within our control? If since you brought up, it's a very good point, right? So this plant is now on the path to the recovery. Okay, but what are the things that this plant has done in order to go on to the path? Number one, they don't sit on it and say that, okay, this is it, we cannot do anything. Number two, they will identify the bottleneck section, right? Bottleneck is part of it. Bottleneck. Where is the bottleneck? Is the bottleneck in the packing operation? Is the bottleneck in the dipping operation? Is it coming from quality department? Right? Is it coming from the supply chain because the planning is not done correctly? So many factors actually came up during this, was brought up during this exercise. So sometimes it's really good when you have this kind of, you need to sit and discuss where the bottlenecks. I believe that a lot of plants lack doing that. If we don't look at the bottlenecks and we don't try to identify the bottlenecks so that we can address it. So if we talk about the recovery, there are many things that goes into it, right? First and foremost, you need a team. You need the team to sit and put up all the indicators that we are talking about. Right? Do I have enough packaging material? That was one of the issues. That they were working so hard to improve the packing. We brought in the workers into the plant. A lot of things were done there, right? And then one day we get an email say, now that we are doing so fast, we don't have material. We don't have. So you see, there's sometimes so many pieces to making sure that when you want to achieve the goal, there's many pieces that goes into it. So the packing material was an issue, right? Another issue was that sometimes when you do the analysis, you'll realize that there were things done in the past. So you need to also go back and study the past. How was it done before? How was it done in another plant? If you notice, right, I think one of my famous statements to all of you is that when there's, I always ask you to go back and relate to another plant, right, to our sister plants, to see whether there is something that we can learn from them, something that we can put in place here, something that we are not doing right in terms of the processes, right? So that is an important factor, right? What's the next one? Yeah. Let's move. We can help the marketing. We need to make sure that the packing. So another thing is that if we don't invoice, we will not see the, right? So the RR, revenue recognition, when we ship out products, the RR, these are terms that you all should know, right? RR is really very important because when you do the RR, then only the sales or marketing will see then they will say that, okay, whether we are coming out of the recovery or whether we are recovering better. Right? Next one.
Increase in home delivery.
Yeah, I think Deepa can explain this. Maybe you can help me to explain. What do you mean by on-time delivery?
First, we follow on trying to fulfill on that. And whatever we have committed on the TTT, so we have to do. And we deliver as per the that we have committed and then put it this way. Customer side as for the as well as also if it and so team it has to be affected in the those that we sure the and to the right person.
So there's OT. If anybody knows what is OT? All new one. I think maybe you don't hear the term so much. Satya and on time in full. Right? That means that it's not just you buy a car, you don't have a car to come to you, right?
No bills.
Give extra. Give me 2 cars, I'll be very happy.
For the price of one
LC
car.
lah.
For the price of the one car.
No, that's called delighting the customer. I learned this term 3 years ago. How do you delight means it's how do you delight the customer? How the customer is excited when they receive the product, right? So you give them a really good quality product, which means that when they take the product, you get it ordered, you order for who bought a car recently? Stella. Okay, Stella's not here. But who in here? I think it was the I think recent one was probably Stella, right? So you were constantly grumbling, right? That the car was not being delivered, it's taking 4 months, it's taking 5 months. Right? But you don't care if other customers complain about your product. It is a very interesting point, Derek, because we should always think about how we are going to delight our customers. Right? What do you think that when our India sales team, like Linda, come to me and then ask me, some people will say that why are you so bothered about it? But my aim is always I want to keep my customers. I want to make sure that if we have made a mistake, we need to rectify, right? So that is important. What's the next one?
This in the purpose of incident.
You can explain that, right?
Yes, especially.
I think it should be a bit more than that, not just about reporting. I think it's reporting incidents, right?
Yeah, it's a leading indicator that actually to ensure that we have. You just used to say leading indicator is the proportional to the reduction of the inversely proportional to the reduction of accident.
It's right. You know why? Because if you really think about, I've got really doing, but if you go back last 10, 15 years and if you compare it now, that's a huge drop. And there's a huge drop in accidents that has happened in us and so forth, right? You can try to see if you can get the data. It's very interesting because sometimes when we don't see things, we don't believe it, right? But I believe this because you can see that when we started introducing the near misses, incidents reporting, everything, you can actually see it's like. Okay, so sometimes we take it for granted. We think it is trivial, but it is actually very hard. And you may not see an immediate gratification. You may not see it. You see, that took 10 years, right? For it. Of course, you can speed track it, but you need people to believe you, right? You need people to believe. What's the next one?
Increase in operational
Resiliency. It's the same thing as what I was talking about, the supply chain, right? If there is a backup, if there is a situation, the vendor is not, getting the products in and all that, you cannot let yourself run. This is so important for you to check how you're going to make sure that you can bounce back, right? So what are we doing? Example, for a vendor who's giving us a product which is not marketable or they're not delivering on time, and you start to have backup plans. Alternatives, right? Could be a bit slow, but it could have been faster. But of course, sometimes it's not within a right? So that's how you need to see it. I'm asking you to increase the output for the Malacca, or you have a dip in the Malacca volumes, right? So how do you have backup plans, and how quickly you can, how strong you are?
People that to go back.
Next one.
increase in customer satisfaction.
You can tell me about increasing Derek.
Very
I think this is related to customer survey. From there, how we want to satisfy our customer. It can be a lot. It can be a lot of area. Some may want the quality of the product. Some may want the time. Some may want maybe want the prices. So
Customer becomes serious.
We have a lot of testimonies, and it's I do remember years ago, right? There are times when we actually have a customer survey. Do you have one for vendors? No, you have a no, but there used to be one for customer service. I don't think they're doing it anymore. Probably the PPMs are doing it, and it is a survey which is sent out to the customers. That means that you're taking the initiative, you're not waiting for them to feedback. There's a lot of times, sometimes customers will not complain, sometimes customers will just move to another product. Things like that happen, right? You can take your own, like what things that you like. So for example, I love this particular lipstick, right? And it's a cheap lipstick. It's got only 12 ringgit or 13 ringgit, but I've been using it for years. And when I go to a shop and I find that lipstick is not there, I get very upset, right? Because I'm so used to that lipstick. Now, for the first month, I'll be forgiving, right? I will probably still have some stocks. Now, let's say the second month, the lipstick, the inventory is there. What do? I will go and buy about 10 lipsticks. You know why? Because I fear running out of the lipstick. So that's how much I like that lipstick. It is something that is favorable for me. So you look at your NRP, you look at your demand fluctuations, right? Right now, what is happening in the market is people are afraid, right, that they are not getting the products because there was a lot of recovery that's happening. It's mostly for surgical and clean room as well. So what do? They stock up. Okay, so now I'll buy the 20 lipsticks, right? Then I will not buy for the next 10 months. That's where you see the volumes dip. So how do we address this situation? Which means that we need to find a way to make sure that the lipstick is always available for the customer. I'm not talking, it could be any other products. So it's the same thing. You may have some particular interest, right, to certain things, certain brands, right? So if you can relate to that, then you will know how we can try to address. We can't do it ourselves, but important thing is that's why we always say that we want to make sure that we're giving you enough. I think we have an issue with Pfizer, right? And one of the reasons is that if we don't, firstly, we didn't give them enough time to qualify the products, right? The alternative products, which is not sure what that happened, but because of that, and if we don't give this 20 cartons, there is a danger of losing that customer because you know what the person is going to do? It's going to go and buy another, another product, right? So, example, this lipstick, right? If I go first month, second month, third month, and I don't get it, I will look for another brand, correct? Now, if I take the brand, two options, or two things can happen. Either I like it, or I don't like it, then I go to another brand. So if I like it, I will not come back to the earlier brand. Why? Because no reliability of. Right? So this is really very important for customers. Okay, so that is why I know that we brought up a point like what were we talking about?
How to increase the customer satisfaction.
Yeah. So how can you increase my satisfaction? So I was telling you, right? That so what would you do?
Stock is available.
Quality is good.
Quality.
Pricing, right? That's what I do, right? I go on. It is because I go on Shopee, and why do I buy the? Now I only buy on Shopee because if I buy 5, I will get 1 or 2 free, right? So I'll just grab it, right? So that's what we strategy, right? So, but if somebody did a survey from you, someone sends a survey, like and say that if you want to know how happy you are with, you see many times, right? When people sell products to you, they will ask the satisfaction or they ask you to participate in the survey. Why it's important is that because when you send me, probably I will tell you that hey, this supermarket is not holding the lipstick that I want, right? And I have to travel very far to go and get the lipstick from it. So this might be a problem. So then there is a problem with that particular. So then you can just.
Our manufacturing is full and push manufacturing.
Yeah.
So it's definitely is a full manufacturing because based on orders, we never do extra or we doesn't have buffer. We really realize on the orders. So how we want to ensure that the stock is already that is that the GDC when you need to have a buffer at the side.
I think this is a very question and it has been troubling everybody, right, for a very long time because they are coming up with different tools to do the prediction. But I personally find that they've not got into that. But if this longevity tool, right, which can help to the longevity tool is a new tool that's been put in place. I won't say it's working 100%, but it's not too bad as well. But it takes all these kind of inputs. It takes all these kind of inputs because I think it's difficult for a person to do that kind of analysis. And that's why they're using it. So they're coming up with a lot of other tools as well and works. Then we can just see. Okay. I worked in a manufacturing organization where we do not care about what the orders are. We run 24 hours. That was in J&J. J&J used to have a manufacturing plant, giant machines. I think exam almost 1 container a day that one giant machine can produce. So it's really huge. And 1 surgical line used to have, right? Nobody tells us this is your order volume, this is we just. Okay. So 2 dangers. One big danger of doing that is if your sales is not selling the product. Right? So when Ansel took over J&J, what happened is that there was a lot of inventory in the. So you need to find, or somebody needs to be able to find that balance, right? Like, yes, you want to do on a daily basis. That's called level loading, right? And it's probably a decision that plant should be making. They're discussing it right now, actually, whether we should do level loading.
Yeah, just to look at the questions, the warehouse, we did warehouse actually. But sometimes the system is not that not that much. And they might build up too much of things. That is not at one time.
That's why you see the fluctuation. So
It is.
And talking about the pull and push line, I think you start in particular, we also 24 hours keep on running. And the month on the pressure to the sales a lot. We will keep on produce, and this is the sales beauty. But
sell it.
I don't care, you can sell, cannot sell, I just run. Machine will not stop. Every day it runs perfectly. Running. We have so many factories.
Let's keep the cost low. Actually.
Yes. The pressure will be on the sales.
Yes, right. So, I mean, because working very many years, right? So there's always like, you're not able to find that balance, right? And smaller companies are able to do it better, right? But companies like us, there are times when we produce, like if you ask me, one of the biggest target given to me for the Sharma plant was to reduce the inventory because we were holding a lot of inventory which is not being sold. Issue is that we have a constant debate because, you know, people don't want to take accountability or responsibility. You can ask Steve on the BCP, right? I don't know, for the prep method, right?
Maybe only.
Yes, and we have very clear evidence that, you know, somebody came and told us, you know, place the order and we put the order, but at the end of the day, it's not being so. So these are the dangers and these are the things that a company needs to do. So I would say that, you know, I think we may be on the right track now because the process directive is to do level loading, which means that we pull ahead. We pull ahead, but which we need to analyze and say that there's going to be an order for it. I'm seeing the last 1 year, I can sell the LAS even if I'm going to stock up a little bit, I can sell it, right? So we need to. Right? I won't go through the rest of it, so that on say, and then we talk about market share. Inventory levels is important for us. How do we reduce inventory? Let's not just plant, but in the warehouses as
We mentioned inventory is a FG, right? FG.
It could also mean bulk inventory because we are buying finished, we are semi-finished goods. Yeah,
Long periods.
slow moving. That is why we have a constant debate with whole team, right? Who should take the accountability for it. I think Wi-Fi will know how many months we are trying to pass off the 236.
Don't celebrate 1 year. Just for the sake of knowledge. The safety stock at the distribution, how big is it? 10%, 5%?
It used to be, it actually depends on the scalability of this, but previously they were holding what, 3 to 6 months. Right now, why we see sudden because it's a huge purchase of productions as on volumes and so on, is because they have certain regions, especially like if you look at the North American region, actually increase it to 9 months. So we raised this concern now, 9 to 10 months, or 9 to 12 months, which is huge, right? So you're keeping the products for 9 months, right? And the question we are constantly raising to the sales team is that, okay, now we are rushing, we are struggling, we are working overtime, doing this, everything, and we are giving you the product. Then after 6 months, you will tell me you don't need the product because you got so much of safety.
That's why you see the CBOs done because
Hmm.
CBO is that.
It's a huge.
Right?
That's part I say about working. Thanks for the.
And the other, okay, so this very quickly going into the indicators, productivity, we talk about the throughput, cycle time, OEE, and financial indicators, manufacturing cost. You know, that's why we always try to have a cost down roadmap. So from this cost, how do you bring the cost down? Why do we want to bring the cost down? Because we want to be able to sell. Because you all mentioned, right? Price is a factor. So the lower the price, the better quality, that is people's expectation. Okay. Cheapest price, bestest quality. Both of it don't really go together sometimes, right? And then we have the first class yield, quality, on-time delivery, that is STP, and then OT and so on. And then we have labor as a percentage of cost, recovery, which is what kind of finance is monitoring. Then injury from your department, OT rate from your side, output comes from HR, right? Then we talk about employee turnover rate. That's a good indicator for you, right? So now we get the contract workers, right? Target for you. 10%. Okay,
What is ROE?
return of, in definitely is, let me check that. Maybe by time get not.
What's your ROE?
ROI is return of, investment, ROE increase. EV is there. Earning. Great. Do you have a 5 minutes break? Break. Lunch will only be at 1 o'clock. Yeah.
With assumption as well as so I think we can proceed this because the budget balance. The liability so we can find anything else. We dig up.
And this was negative 30,
And that is estimated by Laula, right? So
it's for negative 10K.
yes, yeah.
We have the, yeah, ECB meeting today.
900. 900.
You get September. You have to do more.
540 is my income. 3 working days this month. That's why I'm not willing to commit higher. I try to deliver higher, but not commit to the higher one.
That will have to make sure because each pair we do, we get about 775.
What's that, sir?
7.
Five.
7, 5.
We wanted to push 7.
We want to increase the number.
Yeah.
Now it's like
This one itself 2 public holidays. 16, 17. For working days, 1 2 days. That's one problem. I try to deliver more. Great for me. But that's all.
Compared to the hands.
Can you try Preeta next week?
I wanted to go with the direct exchange. I want to look at the acceptance criteria again, whether it's ready to be back to sugar. I see.
Accelerators. Preeta,
Preeta.
right.
And even yes,
No, the point is that whatever that they have produced, right now is 7% reduction. I will see whether there's any of the, like they talk about the harmful options, whether those are acceptable. Harmful is like a thin spot. There's a couple of layers, right? So if you want layers, so we want to know whether if it can withstand, then we can accept it. I don't know whether you can request them to send you some of the
Harmful.
half fold the
Things what? Things
half. But not. Once, but I don't ask you this.
why is whole, because whatever is whole is
It's a conductor. It's a conductor.
What I'm wrong.
So the easy, they have got two layers. It's a one layer got four, they call it half fold.
or
You can request them, send you then.
unnecessary.
Reply.
But they have decided to take it. All formation we are not pushing customer, right?
They want to send.
If the customer, right? They will pay a reason. All stocks.
Do we have everyone?
here.
South of them.
Someone is mumbling already, actually.
What's the impact of a child after the toilet visit?
Toilet, is it?
The washroom.
Mushroom?
Apa dia cakap? She
Was it
something
okay? Is it okay?
she didn't give any negative comment or whatever.
But what is your feedback? Is it okay? Okay.
Ulala.
Would I use it?
Ya, yang sini kan ada.
Yang woman punya tu, woman washroom.
Oh, tak ada. Mana dalam mushroom dia?
Ada lah. Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
oh,
okay,
yeah.
okay. They just asking, is it sufficient or not? Because we only have six, right?
Hmm.
I think on the, one island kita dah apa ni? Because kan kiri kanan tu sepatutnya dia lagi perempuan, but now memang kita dah all women. So dia macam
Okay, she didn't comment anything about cleanliness or whatever.
cleanliness tak ada. Memang bersih tu maksudnya.
That's what I'm asking.
Bersih. TikTok. Pagi, it's not pagi, right?
It's not
pagi.
About 3, right?
Kan lunch ah.
Ah, 2,000 to something. Something.
Just hostel lah semalam. I think ada yang rumah satu jahit. Dan dia punya air yang jatuh. Tak mungkin.
Sponsoring comments?
Even the monster is more, is here is better than, the better, also to the banana better, but it's until right.
She is asking for the accommodation. Is it better than?
Facilities.
Yes, but.
Is it same home?
But there is asking the compare your hometown dengan here. So that most of them said that better in their hometown because they have the family and the feeling is
But I
different.
hope that is clear to Shah
Yeah.
because her question to me was whether our accommodation is better, which I
They
think
are
it is.
missing because and they said that's better because they build house, the new house there.
They already built.
Their house. So and Shah really not on that because they are in come here to have money. She's very happy that because they can build
Build
house and buy land, even open the business.
Right, okay, can we start? Right. So just we
Well,
just
rather than
talked,
offering business.
we talked about a lot about KPI, very quick discussion. You can just give me some examples related to the plan KPIs. Talked a lot, so you all should have indicators. In your plan, because just now we saw manufacturing plan, it could be maybe related, maybe not related, like Roche doesn't come through. They're right, so what indicator, one example per person, start.
We
Okay? She went right to the top. What's your KPI? Okay, so a lot of good examples. And you can also, now that we are learning, right, you can also see how you can set up the goals, right, which can help the team. So a lot of times tools which is missing, which I keep telling all my department, they want some help with tools, can talk to you and can point to the right direction. I don't mind spending money. Okay, so let's. All right, now, how do you set the right KPI? We spoke a lot about KPIs. Is it the right KPI? Right, so that's it. So, the cartoon. What do you see? What's the first picture? Dashboard, right? Dashboard. And you can see so many things that you're measuring, right? So what is this? Two people saying, right? So that, wow, our dashboard, we can track everything. We can track SE, we can track the customer satisfaction, we can track the quality. We have a lot of dashboards, right? Right. So excited about tracking. Then this person asked, what is the KPI which is actually trending down? There's one KPI which is trending down, it's not good, right? So thing that is measuring how well we understand the KPI. Sometimes we are doing a lot of KPIs, but we do not know whether we actually understand the KPI. Right? So that is why we always talk about simple KPIs, which is understandable to everybody, which is meaningful. And so setting the right KPI is extremely. So when you use, when you want to define the right indicators, what are the things that you have to do? So you talk about, Salom, you want to just read out?
First one, use, measure performance.
So when you're measuring performance, what can happen?
You
What are
can,
the risks?
risk. Risk is inappropriate indicators and lead to results.
Do you think of an example?
Inappropriate indicators.
Something that you're measuring, but it actually doesn't make any sense. Can you think of something? Anything doesn't have to be related to plan.
Like,
Exactly, right? Is there any point of doing 100% that it's going to bring any value?
In a certain way, yes. We need to sustain that sales.
When you can't do 100% all the time. Okay. So I took the example of me getting rich, right? If I put an indicator where my bank balance comes up every month, is that helping me? Not helping me.
I didn't minus.
No, but my aim is to get $1 million, right? So I put an indicator, I do a trend chart to see what my bank balance is. It's not going to help me in any way because what I need to measure is how much of money that I'm making, right? Whether I'm doing my business right, is the business bringing me profit? Am I buying sufficient lottery tickets? You know, those are all indicators which makes sense. So I will know this month should I buy 100 tickets or should I buy 30 tickets or that sort of thing, right? You talk about production, let's see if we can find a good example in production, which is right. Let's say you have your washer, right? Or sorry, dryer, and you say that you want the temperature to be at 20 degrees, right? Do you want to get one employee every 1 minute record 20 degrees?
Precisely.
So it doesn't make sense for you to put somebody there to measure your temperature, right?
Home that they just me just.
But do you get what I'm trying to say, right? What's the second one?
align strategy with action. This is too many indicators without distraction.
I'm making out with one of the risks and one of the uses, right? So of course you have the strategy. So what's the strategy for the company? What's our strategy? Derek wants to say something. What's the strategy for this company?
Grow.
Definitely, right? We want to grow. So growth should be a strategy, but we want to talk about like okay, maybe 20%, right? So every one of us should be aligned with the action. If I want 20% of growth, what are the things that I need to do? Think about it. It's the same thing over and over again. Because I just want you all to make sure that it's very well understood. You need to make sure the product, quality product, you need to make sure that everything, material, everything is sufficient. You need to make sure that the supply comes in on time. Then we need to make sure that, you ship it on time. You need to make sure there's sufficient labor, right? You need to make sure that measurements, people can measure, can understand the system very well. If they don't have their laptops, they will not be able to do their job. So you need to see how many laptops you need to buy in a year. The CCTV, the CTPAT is an important criteria as well now for us. So you need to make sure that, you can go around and say that, is there any area where there is no CCTV? So these are all important factors. Weirdly, it actually connects to the growth of the, right? You know why? Why is CTPAT important? Because it is US. If they come and check, they have the power to stop volumes from going, right? They have the power to do that. And they can take away the power to do that in the sense that not they will stop, but you see, they will take you out of the list. We are now in that list line, right? And if you don't comply, they will say that Ansel is not complying anymore. So a customer is always going on that platform to see whether we are in compliance. They see that we're not in compliance, they don't want to buy the platform. So everything is related to the growth, right? So a simple thing as a CCTV is the actions that Satya is taking. Make sure that every nook and corner, the warehouse, when you're loading the container, make sure there's a TV monitoring the loading. All these things need, right? So that's why it's important. That one.
Facilitate decision and manipulation gives things.
Okay. So one of it is that we want to make quick decisions. There's no point of procrastinating, right? Sometimes you need to provide. Sometimes when I talk to you, I'll always tell you, give me the information, give me the input, because the information that you give me can help me to make a good decision, right? So indicators are like that as well. The indicators do not make sense to you, then you cannot make a good decision, right? I want to know the temperature has to be sustained 20 degrees. Maybe you have the thermometer and you can show me the chart. Say that there is no drop in the thermometer temperature, everything is fine, right? But there is still no point of somebody trying to go and monitor every minute, every second of it. So that is an unwanted one, right? You can also end up having too many indicators, which is what I was trying to portray in the first. If too many indicators, it becomes very tedious for us to follow through, to understand, and it will distract us, right, from the right indicator. So, which is why when we set the objective, those days, right, some bosses, they require, let's say you have got 5 objectives. Every objective has to have minimum 6. Correct? Today, what are we doing? How many objectives you all have to do? 4 objectives. And each objective, what did we say? 3 is ideal, obviously, right? So can you imagine during those times when we have 6 or 7, exactly is about 7 or 8 objectives, and each objective is 4 to 6. So we get very distracted. We do not know which one to monitor, which one to take. Yeah? So we need to be sensible when we are setting the KPI. Okay, don't let it be a distraction. And miss manipulation, right? People sometimes you have an example for manipulation.
It's part of the quality, the new rules, releasing the club after 100 years. Workshop that we went to.
That workshop, yeah. It's true, right? You have so many criteria of acceptance also will distract. This manipulation is something that you don't want to do. You want to make sure that you're not putting the indicator for you to predict it. For example, Siva, if you have a customer or the vendor, right? You're monitoring the vendor, but if you put a wrong number for the vendors, or if it's something that you are inputting and make an error, or you purposely want that, so that is manipulation. It becomes a misalignment of what we do. Motivating employees, why it's motivating employees? If you have the right indicator, you will feel thrilled, you will feel excited to be able to meet it, right? So some of it not so thrilling. I know the TTT is not very thrilling, but all right. But it is something that, and it is made exciting for you to set the KPI for people. Say that instead of telling that, I must have 0 NPI, you're telling them what? Please find out all the incidents that is happening. So you don't focus on the MPI at this point of time, because your indicator is that find as many issues as possible. And if you can address that, you know that your MTI will be zero, MTI will be zero. You know what I mean? So that is how you make the people accept. If you come and tell me, Preeta, make sure MTI is zero, I will tell you that. How do we do that, right? So something like that, right? So we need to make sure that in KPIs is that it's easy for people to understand and easy for people to follow. Okay. Because it will be motivating. Let's say I set the KPIs for you and then say that you need to meet it, then you know that you will be rewarded if you meet the KPI. Right? Last one, identify opportunities. Find the opportunities. All right. So you need to make sure that when you set your KPI, that's what you say. You are doing some things here. You are setting up an intake, so you probably find the bottleneck and you can set better KPIs or something that is different. Right? And we talk about only figures, lack of non-measurable. So you input the figure day in, day out, right? But that's nothing measured. Okay? I know that in the past, the plant performance, right? Hey, you all get the table, but do you really understand what are the mean table? Right? It becomes very hard. It becomes very hard for you to understand it. But when you understand how you can contribute towards the table, that is where we'll start. Okay, clear? Right. So difference between KPI and metrics. A lot of people confuse between the two. Siva, you want to try and explain what's the difference between a KPI and metric? But without looking there, can you tell me what does it mean to you when I say KPI? What does it mean to you when I say metrics?
KPI metric is like
Right? You can read that. It says KPI will help your team to focus on what is important and help your strategic work. And metrics will help the KPI. Metrics, it's not just that it's helping the KPI because it will show what are the strategies that you've taken, what are the dispositions, what are the action items that you're taking in order to make sure that okay. So just a few pointers here. If you want to have the biggest impact on the business, right, you should keep your eye on your we lack that a little bit, which is why I'm emphasizing. Sometimes we don't focus on it, right? But if you really want to contribute, we really want to contribute and make the biggest impact, keep an eye on your, don't lose focus of it. Okay. I'm going to go into what are the steps that is involved when we want to set a KPI, right? So very simply put. Firstly, you want to define the organizational goals, right? What are the goals of the organization? You want to assess the current performance. I think we know that, right? Like because you want a baseline. So you need to assess what is your performance right now. And then you need to involve the relevant stakeholders. What does that mean actually? So for example, right, we talked about the water steward program. I think our EHS has given directive that they want us to reduce the electricity and what do you call that, water, right? So who do you think is your stakeholder? There are more than that, right? People in the plant and sometimes outside. Yes. Expert. Who are the experts, right? Who can help you? Somebody spoke about, do you talk about the solar panel, right? We spoke about solar panel, right? So can you do the solar panel yourself, right? You need the external help, right? So your stakeholder, when we say stakeholder, can mean long, right? And it is important to involve them when you make just rather than making them, because stakeholders will help you and buy into your plan, so they will support your goals. Sometimes you hold a carrot also, right? And say that if you achieve this, we'll give you this. So this is why we do a lot of those things, because we want to divert the attention of employees especially the operators and so on, to the care. Why do we give the KFC vouchers? You meet this goal, It's a simple act, right? It's just a 10 ringgit voucher, but it makes them happy, makes the operators happy, all of us as well, right? It makes us happy. We get a voucher and we can use it. Doesn't matter whether it's 5 ringgit, 10 ringgit, but it's that, right? So that is stakeholder. That is what I mean when I say involving the stakeholders. The fourth point is that once you involve the stakeholders, then you can actually identify your challenges, right? You can talk to Bora, you can talk to Arta. Sorry to pick on that example, but perfect example because they are also your, people who have vested interest, right? We can't just get stuck and say that, okay, I need to reduce electricity. What do I do? Reducing your electricity is not your KPI. It's not an indicator that you can use, right? So what are the things that goes into using the usage of it? Then there's so many aspects to it, right? And the fifth one is, you need to define how you are going to track the KPIs. So now you set the KPIs, right? And you need to make sure you know how to monitor the, okay, how you're going to track it. Because if you don't track it, what I said just now, the biggest impact that you can make your business is when you keep your eye on the KPI. The moment you don't keep your eye on the KPI, you will start to do. So make sure you create a mechanism, right? Derek does it, he looks at the customer complaint, but it's not just enough to look at the customer complaints. You need to define and see what actions you're going to take. And when you set actions, right, you need to monitor the actions. If you say that the glove presentation, like it does a lot of work on the glove presentation improvement, right? So I'm not just missing this thing is missing. I mean, it's like fingers up, or intertwined and all that, right? So you are creating a lot of indicators. Make sure that gives you the, but we didn't do it overnight. We set one indicator, we realized that it was not working. It was not enough. We still, people. Then you realize that the bottleneck is because of it. So how do you improve this is if you follow the steps. If you have a problem, rather than rushing into go and put your own indicators beside it, you follow the steps. You will get a good way to be able to monitor it. That's what I'm saying. All right. So it's a very simple thing, right? It's a very simple thing, but every time you have a problem, think about this. Then it will help you to get a more meaningful indicator, more meaningful way to solve the problem. So once you define the mechanism, then you need to communicate, right? You need to communicate to people. We don't do that. It's something that lacking. Many plants are lacking. We don't communicate that here we are, You do that with your nemesis, right? Some pockets we are doing it, but I'm the one who's doing the communication. Communication should come from you. You should come and tell, right? For example, if the STP is both of your departments, whether you're meeting the CTPs, RTPs, or whatever, right? You should have a mechanism to come and say that if we are not meeting this, because I'm monitoring this, we're not achieving this. Okay? It shouldn't be coming from me. Because you guys are the closest to us. You don't need me to come and ask you why you didn't meet your STP, why you didn't meet your RTP, why you didn't meet your productivity, why the customer complaint is still high, right? Because we don't set good KPIs. We don't set good action plan. Because we try to do it in silos. Derek will have his silo. Seven will have his silo. Define your silos. Define your silo. You have your own silos. So you need to stop working in silos if you want to make sure that you have good, strong KPI. Right? I honestly rather you all have one KPI of, sorry, instead of, now you're doing 4 times 3 is 12, right? 12 action items. If you give me 6, but if you really follow through all the steps, I will be happy. Achieve that. End of the day, we want to achieve how you work towards it. You cannot work alone, right? And the last one is that how you're going to review the KPI. I tried to do this, I actually failed. But it is something that we should do anything. Right? When we are having the monthly meeting, why not we review the KPIs? and see where you guys, right? That will help us to bring us back, right? Because I know we have a lot of daily activities that happen, right? It's not like to say that we are sitting and shaking our legs and doing nothing because we have this problem, this problem. I remember once Fred, if you know Fred, our finance controller, of course, you know very well. You all know Fred? Okay. You all should know. He's now moved out, right, to another function, and Natalia has taken over. Many years ago, Fred put up a cartoon picture, right, where this is the guy, right, and he has like about 5-6 balls, and the juggler. You know what's the juggler?
Yes.
So you need to juggle the 5 balls and make sure none of the balls drop, right? And he put the comment, he put that this is the GM and the plan. Because it's not just the GM, because we have so many things that we're doing, juggling. We want to make sure that none of the balls drop. So this will be a CSR ball, this will be a productivity ball, this will be a STP ball, so there are various balls. So you guys are expert in your own balls. Okay. So if you make sure that your balls are steady and can float, makes the life of the plant easier. Right? I don't want to say GM, but it really makes the life of the plant easier. Right? So each of you can focus on your KPIs and see how we can meet it, not as a team. Okay? So try to follow the 7 steps of it, and I'll explain a little bit. Defining goals. So when you're defining goals, look at the strategy. What did you say? It's not strategy. One of the strategies is growth. So growth is a strategy. Profitability is a strategy. Customer satisfaction is a strategy. These are all strategies, right? What the company wants to do. And you need to align your goals with the strategy of the company, right? And then you must have objective which the KPI relates to. Right? So the KPI is indicator, guys, don't misunderstand. KPI is an indicator, right? And that indicator is a key performance indicator, but it actually will indicate whether you are achieving your goal, which is aligned to the strategy. Okay. So you want to state the key performance question. So when you want to set a KPI, right, or you want to set a goal, there are a few questions that you can ask yourself. Right? So the first one is what I mentioned is the strategy goal, right? Okay. So you want to put an example for your strategy goal. Then you talk about a key performance question that you want to ask. What is the name of the indicator and how you're going to collect the data? This is part of what you will be doing. Okay. So example, growth. We talk about the first example is customer satisfaction. So that is our strategy. So the question that you can ask is, how much is the customer satisfied with our? Because you're talking about the satisfaction, right? How do I measure how satisfied you are with my product? Then you can ask, and you can say that, okay, I'm going to put a score, I'm going to put an indicator for this, right? Over here, this is just an example. We put that as net promoter services. Not the interest. I'll give you the references later, but this is from there, right? So it is, you can name the indicator yourself. So you want to put there customer satisfaction indicator, CS factor or CS indicator, whatever, it is up to you, right? And then you want to see that how you will collect the data. So this is what we are talking about. You can send out surveys. You don't have to wait for the customer. You don't have to wait for customer complaints, right? You can already take the action by actually you're putting out a survey. One used to that you can go back and check and see why we are not doing it anymore. I know that process QA used to do this. But do you get the answer? You see that?
Really no, I mean, our response very low.
Yeah, that is because it is not the customers, the marketing people not taking it. You get what I say now. To them, it doesn't matter. They are always talking to the customers, right? So it's not their key performance. And to them, they feel it's not their KPI, right? Another example is that you want to talk about profits, growing the profits, right? So the question is, you can ask, to what extent are we generating the bottom line? Okay, it's a question that you can ask this. And then you can talk about how are you going to indicate, what would be the indicator? It's the net profit, right? That would be your indicator, right? To show whether you are generating the profit. Okay? And the last one is how you're going to collect the data. You can collect the data from the income statement, right? Which is the plant performance. Every month when she does the plant performance, one which she's doing right now, right? You can see the numbers, and from the numbers you know whether you are generating. Okay. So what I want you all to do now is, I'm sure you all in the speech.
No, I'm agree.
Agree. That's in a group of you. Just give me one example. What is your strategic goal? What is your key performance indicator? What is the indicator name? Indicator name is not important. You don't have to do that. Indicator name, it's up to you. And how are you going to do the data collection? Report.
Jangan sudah.
How do you use it for you?
30% more.
Strategic goals that you have for the company. I think goal will be very clear with
This 5%, 5%.
yes, just goals of safe, a safe environment. Accident-free environment, that's strategic goal. Right?
Baseline. Oh, right.
For CSR compliance, right? What is the strategy? It's not the company says that we're really CSR compliant, right? But actually, the reason for having the corporate social responsibility to ensure that equality, people's welfare, and we are treating them equal treatment of equality. That is the strategy, right? We want to treat people fair. And if you talk about the question that you want to ask is, how do I, how do I make sure that people are going to be fair? What do I need to do in order to? Then you can put your CSR audits, CSR audit, or you can, the question, what do you want to ask, right? That will cover the key question. What is your indication and how will you measure it? I will just depend on external audits, or you will depend on internal audits.
I'll go like that.
So you talk about employee welfare, right? You talk about the hostels, talk about the transportation.
And then
Yeah.
Okay, the flip side. One oil. Take the name.
Isolated. Some person like that.
Oh, actually in the company,
Yeah.
we remove that because the down.
I was asking who can actually provide.
No,
No problem. I was talking about people since yesterday. That's what we can. Someone.
Jadi asal sama ni. Ada strategic. Customer satisfaction.
Oh, I think that should have reached, right?
The body. Yeah. Exactly.
Setting the. Okay.
That means you're saying that.
Yes. Biar for our team, for HR. As
Our best estimate is lesser except so I say that. So it's like a together.
I think you're without it.
Exam and others. For the exam. Yeah, okay.
Dia kan banget main mana? Ada main day. Women's day.
The latest one is the production which I didn't update. For the basic. It would be stopped. So whichever producers are added. Yeah, right. But see what they think.
Yep, done.
It's a break.
Diamond, the side also.
one Preeta. And then. So others, I also make this others one.
Properties will be.
I wanted to bring that up when you put compliance. Compliance is not strategy for the company. Strategy for the company is customer satisfaction. So, doesn't present.
Yeah, the goal is improve productivity. Then key performance indicator is increase 3% from the baseline FY 2020. The name is labor productivity. And then data collection method is daily output and man working hours.
I would say that probably we look at the strategy goals a little bit differently, right? It's more what we want to know, what is improving productivity means to the strategy of the company.
Capacity.
That's how we need to look at it.
Capacity.
Not just capacity, I said one of it, but the main, what's strategy of the company? Okay. Ask this question, when you improve productivity, what happens?
Profitability. Profitability.
That is strategy. Be profitable, right? So you cannot put improve, I mean, you can, but it's more appropriate to put profitability, right? Because on profitability or growth, because when you improve productivity, what it means is that your cost is going to. So always ask this question when you have the, which is why I'm very happy that you look at the customer CSR compliance and you thought about it, said that no, it's not, that's not the company's strategy. It's an action item that you are taking in order to do what? To make sure that at the end of the day that the customer is satisfied. Because when the customer comes to buy the product from the company, what they look at, is this an ethical company? All right, are they treating the workers fairly? There are many ways of doing this. In Saramban plant, last year, there was a big hoo-ha because the customer actually did a audit, it's kind of like an audit, but they called and spoke to all the workers. Yes, and the workers actually commented that we're not being treated, we are being treated badly by the supervisor. Yes, they said that supervisor slammed the curtain, nearly, touch my feet, and a lot of things, right? So can you imagine, right? I mean, they actually was a big hoo-ha at the time because it sounded like Kegler was Kegler, right? They were mistreating the employee, right? So you have a very dissatisfied customer. So these are ways that they will get to know as well. Sometimes they will do an audit, they decide to do social. We have social audits as well, right? Do we have any customer social audits? We're lucky. Because there are a lot of customers who are very particular. They want to make sure that I buy from. So for example, my personal principle, right? Like I wouldn't want to buy an item if I find that they're using children to, that's just my personal, KPI, so as to say, because my satisfaction that I don't want, if I ever come to know that the company is actually using labor, child labor, right? I wouldn't want to buy that. So same thing, right? Customers have their preferences. Do you want to, any comments on team one's, don't say anything that does not make sense there? The daily mantra. Oh, man hours.
Yes, I do that.
Although very awkward. Anything that you think doesn't make sense?
What is SCOC? Yang bawa data pribadi. Oh, kalau kena
So this one actually should come here. Productivity improvement. You can put this as a, because you have the target, and there should be media on status too, or Satya. Satya, very quickly, yes. Media.
These customers, then we have the indicator. Because we know what is, we have to know that, how they want to satisfy the customer, right? So like, Preeta said, when we do the survey, they don't want to buy, if there is any cost level, exact company, we are good in the employee welfare. And then D and I meaning the recipient. And indicator means how we are going to achieve this, we are compliant on the
Audits can, there's CSR audits. All that can come under that. It doesn't have to be one necessarily, right? So indicator is probably the CSR audits that we conduct, and internal, it can be external party, etc. But that is going to be your indicator, right?
how we get the data collection, measurement is the and from compliance how we are getting during the external or internal audit.
Yeah. I would say that you should go a little bit further than that. Whether you have any comments on that last one? The data collection method, do you think that can be a bit different? I should put the audits.
It could be some basic checklists.
Yeah, you cannot wait for the, yeah, it can be one of it, but you cannot wait for that. Your data collection should be your,
Right.
your monthly meeting with the foreign workers, sorry, with all the workers. You have monthly meetings, you gauge their interest, or whether they are, you have complaints, shop floor engagement, all those are your data. So how many shop floor engagement are you doing? When you do the shop floor engagement, you go back and you do the survey with them, find out that whether you're happy with what is happening. Nowadays, I think Zone is using a lot of it, and other teams are not using those yet. Or surveys and things that you can use the, yeah. Right, so it doesn't have to necessarily be something that where everybody has to write down, because you get very simple questions that you ask the people to gauge their satisfaction. Why not? Do a survey, right? Mari dulu balik. All right, so you understand a little bit on defining how you want to define the goals, right? Please look at your company strategy. Right? What is the strategy? What is the manufacturing strategy? Right? It can be the company strategy, can be Ansel's worldwide strategy, can be simple strategy which is given by like my boss, right? What is his strategy? He wants to make sure we commit what we deliver what we commit. It is so important for me. That's why I talk about it.
Goals, right? Normally it will be top down, right? So, as a strategy here, just follow the as the top. The item below it, that's what we need to do.
Yeah, correct. So your strategic goals you have already set. And your strategic goals can be, and so strategic goals, it can be my manufacturing goals. You can't deviate much from that. But how you want to do it, right? So yes, sometimes we cannot have the luxury of being able to select the KPI that we want, but if you have a different way of meeting it, why not? Right? I'm telling you, you have to be zero idea. Probably at the end of the day measure if you are not at zero idea, but there are a lot of things you can do in order to, make sure that we don't get, right? So if you can convince your boss or whoever, right, say that this is what, maybe that can be your indicator as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, as an example, right? A very simple example. When we have an LTI, we had one, right? When we have an LTI, right? I did not get penalized, right? And I did not penalize any one of you, right? So sometimes it is not just about saying, say that, oh, you didn't meet zero or whatever, and then we penalize. It doesn't work like that as well. We are aware of why it happened. So you also need to do that kind of analysis. Okay? So sometimes things are not set. So, right? You have to use your knowledge, your presence of mind. And, I didn't penalize any one of us. Just by right, when those days they used to say that if a plant has an LTI, right, and the GMs to the HODs, they used to deduct 20% something, right, to be lower. So your performance will not be 100%, it will be 90%. But we don't do that anymore because maybe that's not really the right way. So yes, we can always look at the KPIs again. STP, Deepa didn't meet any of the STP last year, right? So what are we saying? It's not about the STP. Probably what we need to look at is we commit, are we compliant? Are we meeting? Are we targeting? If we say I commit, I will deliver 10,000 pieces this month, then I must deliver the 10,000. But let's say you don't deliver 100,000 pieces because multi-save doesn't deliver, I will not come looking for you. But if you didn't deliver because one of you made an error, then that is not right. You understand or not the differences? So yes, setting KPIs is important, but we also need to have our presence of mind. It can't be exactly black and white, right? It also has to be like what is within our control. What is within? So what?
Goal, we always try to set a smart goal, right?
Yes.
So somehow, then I stop now. SPP, the target is not what we want, but I mean, this is not what we see we can achieve. But it is like, and someday we need to hit 25, which is far from our current. Yes, right. So this is not like currently we are 65, then we are setting at 70 years. This is like a big gap for us to understand. Yeah.
Which is why I give you 100%. I don't know what I'm just saying. I'm just saying because I can't. I understand that, but maybe what I struggle with is that when I find that things that is our control, but that is what bothers me about it. You all could have seen a couple of emails that I sent out, right? I mean, it just bugs me about. Okay. So within our control, we make a mistake, then we should be accountable, held accountable, right? If multi-save, when last month multi-save didn't deliver, right?
Yeah.
On the 5th, we go there, inspection, they didn't deliver. What do we do? We get angry with the customer, but I'm not penalize anyone of you. So you want to answer?
Because as you were saying, actually is 80%, but we can set up KPI based on our baseline, right?
Yes.
Movement from there.
Yes.
10%. That's also is a smart thing.
Yes.
It's an improvement.
Set it up. And as I say that if things are not been able, this is something one of my ex-bosses told me as well, right? When I complained about another plant. And I said it is because of them that I'm not meeting, blah, blah, blah. And he told me, is it within your control? Take them. Take a look at what is in shipments, delay, vessel delay, is it within your control? Do I come and get angry with you because you didn't meet it because of the vessel delay? Why, right? But do I get upset with you if something is not being communicated to the customer, something has been delayed, or we missed out from the 200 Excel worksheets that we have, we missed out. We get upset. It's just about within your control. It's within your control. It's not within your control. And I'm not talking about. I don't want Siva to come and say that it's not within my control. It's within Deepa's control. Okay, that I will not accept because we are animal chala. If Deepa was not in control, I am not in control. Simply means that. You understand? So that is that. So don't Selvan come back and tell Preeta the glove didn't come, not within my control. And the material not within my control. Please don't come and tell me.
I cannot be.
Okay, all right, so we have done that. Let's quickly go. No, all of you are hungry, so I will. We talked about assessing the current performance, right? I will just get each one of you to read it, just explain. Then you can start. What do you mean by assessing the current performance? You can read through and tell.
Okay, collect current performance data, compare with current performance to past performance, system plant performance, and even industry specific performance standard. Comparison allow a more realistic evaluation of the current performance by valuable context for setting competitive KPI, help in setting achievable KPI for improvement.
Why explain what we are. Explain what you emphasize.
Basically check what I've done in the past and what we want to achieve. Then so we can make a judgment to set our fit.
The two examples you can see here, right? I think one is from Major Harris on your turnover. I think Global is measuring the turnover, right? It's all the plants. You realize that sometimes they don't give the same KPI. Some plants have different KPI. Right? Why did that happen?
Because I think they will see the data before how the trend is and how is it the numbers we give they can achieve the good goal or not.
Right? So then what did they use that? They use the past performance of the plant, right? And it's not just about the past performance of the plant. We also do an analysis. For example, the place where this plant is located, right? It's in Shala, right? It's not that easy to get workers. The turnover is much more higher. So if you do a study, you will realize that the turnover is higher in Shala compared to Kulim or Malacca. Example, yeah, I've done this before, right? So I know. So that is where when you are studying, because these are things that you need to look at as well. You said zero MTI, zero LTI is the common goal. Okay. But actions close, action items close. You can always check the system and how well are they doing. Do they study as closing 90% of the action item? Do they study at 60%? Maybe now you're only at 40 to 50%. So you don't want to set 100%. Right? It all depends. But maybe your stakeholder will come and tell you, I don't care, Zoe, you have to close all 100%. Then it's up for you, up to you to debate and say that 90% we will close, 10% is cost related as well. We will bring it to your attention and everybody's attention. If everybody accepts, then we will be as 100%. Okay, so even any goals that I'm setting to you, you can debate the goals and we can set more meaningful targets as well. Right? As I said, KPI is something we cannot run from, is the company the operations goal KPI, right? So we still have to buy. When we were trying to keep the 99% waste to landfill, you know, there was a lot of concern. Remember, we were saying that I think before your time, Zazam, we were saying that it's very difficult to meet because our setup is different. Right? So the first year, John allowed us, right? He gave us some leeway because he know that we cannot achieve because our setup is different. But second year, he changed his mind. He said, yeah, I cannot wait already any longer. I just want you all to be. So we have to find the ways to meet that. Maybe there's something that is coming top driven, right? And for you, the AQL, right? Is your AQL same as the other plant? I mean, for our plant products, is it the same as Malacca? No, right? Why? You're doing a comparison, right? But why is it not the same? Because we have our data that says that the clean room product and we are buying from vendors. So vendors are not going to accept it. We go and set quantity, what we care 0.65. So it was a deliberate decision made, right? But sometimes we will compare as well. If you look at the labor product, you can always go and compare with other plants, which is what Dilip always does, right? He asks you how many people you're having or how much surplus you're packing, and then he will tell you, right, what the plant can do better, you all cannot do, as good as the plant who sends you come. I asked Deepa this question, why your plant, why the warehouse got 15, why the other place they are having lesser, so it's an analysis that you can do yourself and say why it can or cannot do that. But at the end of the day, you will find that some of the things, if you do the comparisons that you can do, you can meet the goals. How did we beat the 99% when everybody said it was impossible to meet the 99% waste to them? Everybody said that. Whoever that I was talking to in the plant said it's impossible, okay? But we did it. So there is always going to be a solution and a way to do it. Okay? And if it is really not impossible, then you need to be very clear why it's not. Like why it's not possible to have a 0.4 here. Very simple. We can't dictate it. But why Malacca is they are insisting that they do the 0.4 because why?
Process within their
Process is within their control. Absolutely, right? So they will insist. I don't care how you do it, but make sure that you meet the 0.4. Right? Quickly, second one, involving stakeholders. Selva?
KPI performance measures as well as valuable assets and involving stakeholders will help in selecting KPIs that are aligned with their expectations, creating a shared vision of benefits, obtaining their commitment to achieving business goals, finding meaningful input on collecting, analyzing, and presenting KPIs data.
What do you understand?
Okay. The KPI that we are setting is definitely going to impact stakeholders. So selecting the right KPI that can align that expectation and create the right vision for the team to move on and the right KPI that moves.
So when we work on the STP and all that, right, we all involve Anzo, right? And Anzo sets nice targets. Actually, when he presents, right, he actually doesn't set the target as 85%, 90%. He doesn't do that. When he does the weekly presentation, he knows what he's targeting for that particular month, and he has a chart to show that how he's planning to achieve it. The materializers or not is a different question altogether. So you see, when you involve the stakeholders, the right stakeholders, your KPI will become more meaningful and easier to achieve. For example, I'm telling you all that my KPI right now is deliver what we commit. Can I do it myself? Not possible. All right, because I will commit to everything, right? And it's not going to be achievable. But who can do the commitment? It comes from the planning, right? So that is why it is important for you to work with your stakeholder who is Catherine. So she's difficult to being recorded, so I better not say that. There might be people who are difficult and tough to work with because different people have different ways of doing things. But at the end of the day, you need to sometimes work with the stakeholders. Probably better to sit with your stakeholders and say that, look, this is what I can, this is only what I can commit. I cannot commit anything because now my boss's expectation is I must deliver what I'm committing. You cannot force me to commit something that I cannot do because I can show you proof, show you data, say that this is not possible. So you have to defend and you have to get the right stakeholder, then you can. Okay. Another thing is that KPI, sometimes you need to view the KPI as an asset, a valuable asset. For us, we always consider KPI, some of us, we consider KPI as a pay, right? I'll be having this, you guys are pushing me to meet a 4.4 AQL, there's a pushing me to the STP, we can say all that, right? But if you consider the strategic goal, you will start to change your mindset. Because what is a strategic goal? Customer satisfaction, company growth, right? And if you do all this, that you'll be able to achieve. So start to view KPI as not a pain, but as an asset. Again, I'm repeating. Biggest business impact that you can achieve is by keeping an eye on your following through, monitoring, making sure you take actions. If this 3 actions not working, go for another 3 actions. You're committed for the labor productivity, right? You need to watch. It's not just about doing the daily chores and so on, right? Deepa. Comes to what you were talking about.
The date should be relevant to the company's short-term and long-term. Really show the criteria specific related to the specific measurable, viable measure to track and compare performance, measurable, realistic, relevant, contribute directly to company goals, and more evaluate performance.
Tell me what you understand.
Taking this can be narrowed down to the SCP. That's companies. So it's a long-term objective and stuff. So from there, it have to be, a company already have the measurable how. So we have
But
to
you
be,
don't know whether it's smart, huh?
because they basically they already set all the criteria and stuff. So there is a position as a plant-based, we already been saying that it's challenges. But we try to measure and on what is realistically that we can achieve it. And measure the
So you see, the part where you are concerned, all of your concern I can bet you is on achievable, whether it's achievable or not. Is it a specific goal that is clear? Is it measurable? Yes, it can be measured. Is it relevant? Obviously, right? And is it time bound? Yes, because you can't say that I'm meeting the STP in 10 years time. All right, but is it achievable or not? Right? But still, why do companies put targets which I think that to their perspective is achievable and something that you should go for it because they're aligning it to their practices. Right? If I don't achieve the STP is what? STP is measuring whether we have shipped what we promised, right? That's what it is basically, right? So we know that if we don't do it, our sales are going to drop, our volumes are going to drop. A lot of companies don't realize this, but there are many times, many companies, maybe sometimes in the market for 50 years, 60 years, but suddenly you hear that they close down, right? And most of the time, it's related whether customers are buying items, right? So you need to sometimes really think about this thing in a different way, and maybe we can find differences. Why am I pushing so much? For the last 1.5 years, I've been selling out meals after meals or moving out of multi-sale. You showed data which says that 73% of our delay, right? SPO or delay is due to SPO or failure, everything is due to multi-sale. Which is why I'm being so persistent about moving to an alternate. It's not easy. We really tried from the time I walked to the plant in October 2022, I think, track of that, so for 2022, right? In December, I got a mail and I told Philip, I'm very concerned. I know a lot of people have been bringing it up, but do I get tired of doing it? I get a bit tired. I get frustrated, yes, but do I stop? I never stop. Never stop when I know that it's the right thing to do. Best thing to do. Okay. So it's something that you should have it. Many years ago when we were running the big plant in Johnson, right? It has 22 formers at one time. Imagine 22 formers. Every year, I'm sure you have seen the thing where it's one former, or double former, right? But imagine it's 11 formers is set and 11 formers is huge, right? So it goes into the tipping time, and we've got online printing. How do you do online printing for 22 formers? It has to be a very specially designed. There's one supplier who said can do. And for years, they were holding the modified. We call it the snake printer. It's a modified printer because you need to get BP, because you need to print, right? So it needs to be something. It's a bit hard to explain, maybe hard for you all to fix it, but suffice it to say that a normal, ordinary printer cannot do the job. It has to be a modified printer which can do it. And we had, I think we had 11 printers, if I'm not mistaken. Each printer is 70,000 ringgit. And they were monopolizing that, that means that every 1, 2 years they have to change. So every year we have to put a huge amount of budget for the printer. So Ravinda was my engineering manager. You all see him, he will tell you the story. Every day I will walk into his room or when I see him, I say, Ravinda, we need to find another supplier. Then he tells me, this is the only supplier that we have. Right? You know what my answer is? This is the only supplier today. Tomorrow it will be another supplier. So do you say that, oh, this is the only supplier, so you don't do anything about it? If you don't do anything about it, you are going to remain with the today's supplier. Am I right? You get what I'm trying to say, right? I used to barking like hell. And he is really, but do you know that 2 years down the road, because I keep pressing, suddenly there was a vendor who said they can do it. And the monopoly dropped. So that 70,000 became 10,000. Yeah. 10,000 printers, one printer. It's not a very difficult thing. It's just that maybe we also need to discuss with the vendor. Let's say I'm seeing another vendor and say that, can you do this? Maybe they say, I have no idea. I'm only having this simple printer. But if you can entice us to come to the plant, I will show you how the system works. You can look at what the current printer looks like. Maybe you can modify your printer. So these are initiatives we need. Okay. So the solution may not be there today, but if you don't watch or you don't keep pushing, you will miss the solution when it comes. Like we don't follow up, right? For example, if Ravinda decided that you're going to follow up on that one, it will take another 4 years, maybe before we realize that actually there is another vendor doing it. So it's persistence, right? So achievable is relative to different. What we think is not achievable is maybe because we are not paying enough attention. You get what I'm trying to say, right? Okay, so again, change of the mindset. What?
Time to have progress in find the tools and methods effectively. Use visualization tools, dashboards, graphs, and charts. We need to track the progress and then definitely how to create the way. Example is easy to bring one like dashboard.
So anything, right? You have the smart sheets, which is recording the daily output, but what you need to see is that how will you monitor your, like, for example, you want to monitor the day you deliver the day, you need to know exactly how much the month ahead defines, so you all should know what you're going to ship up. That's a given. So if you know daily, this is what I'm going to ship out, and you should already be working backwards and telling that, okay, on the 1st of December, I need to ship out 200 pairs of VAS, maybe another 200 pairs of bulbs or whatever, right? And you need to tell someone that you need to produce these items 60 days before. And you need to make sure that 30 days before that you get the items. So I'm on the price order, right? That means that you need to come up with the correct model. Maybe we don't have the right dashboard. Maybe we don't have the right tracking, right? It's possible, okay? Okay. Clear? I don't know, is it clear? You're saying clear because you're hungry or?
Yes.
All right, okay, 2 more to go. Satya, communicating the KPI.
Communicating KPI, culture of regularly sharing the progress, KPI with the employees, provide a summary, not just the raw data, on the wins and room for improvement, assign only for effective communication and management of KPI progress.
Yeah, continue.
Acknowledge the efforts and contribution of terms and reward innovation and outcome of. This creates a positive environment for developing education tool.
What does this mean to both of you?
Like during the meeting, we can share what is the progress of the KPI.
Rewarding, right?
Yeah.
I think we often forget that I'm guilty of that, right? Because I do want to make sure that we are recognizing people. It's not about rewarding just with money, but the recognition of the people should be there every time. Then they will be more excited to make sure that we are always focusing now. And I'm talking about myself, right? Sometimes overly occupied with work, overly occupied with wanting to meet targets and so on, that I only react when things are going wrong, right? Most of the time. Right? And I think we all do that. But we don't react when things are going good as well. If somebody does something good, we don't recognize that. Or we just take it for granted, right? Like, but I think we should do a lot more. Maybe we should start including that in our mind. You guys can come up with your way. Oh, don't worry about the budget. It's about recognition, right? Like if you put out a huge congratulatory message, right? Put it up in this board or something like that. Thank you to all. Or you just one good way of measuring it. You say that you guys met the KPI. It's another way of seeing it. Okay. So this is more for making sure that it's a positive environment. So last